to Once Upon a Page. We're here today to give you a little taste of our writing. We're going to each read a scene from one of our books, and we're going to start with Amy today.
Okay, so I decided to read to you from Faith and Hope. I know it sounds really crazy to say you love your book that you wrote, but I do. I love this book.
I think you're supposed to love it. Yeah, you need to love it.
Yeah, I have a special spot in my heart for this one because Faith and I went through a lot of the same stuff. But actually today, I'm going to be reading to you from Hope's perspective. Hope is the younger sister. She has been living in Mississippi for several years and now has been basically forced to move into Faith's house for the summer in Texas, which she swore up and down she would never live in Texas, but here she is. And she's working at a summer camp. It's a day camp, and so she's out in the heat. But she's made a new friend with her co-counselor, Joe, and he has talked her into attending counselor night where they go and, do fun things like eat barbecue and play games that they normally play during camp, but it's a little cooler because it's in the evening. So, just to set it up. Okay. As it started to get dark, they all filed to the kickball field and flipped on the lights. The girls challenged the boys, and Hope was up first. She stepped up to the plate and faced down Charlie, the guy pitching. He brought his arm back a bit and then let the red ball go. It bounced 3 or 4 times as it rolled toward her. She pulled her leg back, kicked it forward with all her might, and miraculously redirected the ball toward the space between third and second base. She took off at a mad sprint toward first as the girls cheered her on in the background. Joe was there, his arms waiting to catch the ball as she neared the base. Momentum was a cruel force. Her feet touched the bag, but she couldn't stop. The dirt was slick, her shoes slid. The world went out from under her. Maybe an extra wide step would help? No such luck. The earth quickly rose up to meet her. At the last second, she tucked her head and rolled as her body collided with the ground. Oof! Could she move? She squeezed her eyes closed tight and then opened them again, the breath slowly refilling her lungs. Her brain scrambled to figure out what was actually hurting instead of just screaming that her whole body was on fire from the pain. Joe came into view above her, a worried look on his face. You okay? I think so, she groaned, just catching my breath. She eased to her feet and took inventory. Grass and dust covered her shoulder and knee. Blood trickled down her leg. I think we better go patch you up, Joe said. I'm okay. Hope refused to admit how much everything ached at that moment. Could she die of embarrassment? At least let's try to keep the blood from staining your socks. He pointed to the red oozing closer to her ankle as she stood there. She let him lead her off the field and back toward the building. It was dark away from the lights, and she was grateful for his presence and the slight pressure of his hand on the small of her back as they picked their way along the drive. Crickets and frogs sang in the night, mixing their sounds with the cicadas. Joe sat Hope down in a chair in the nurse's station and wet several paper towels with some antibacterial liquid. With hands as gentle as a butterfly alighting, he patted her scraped knee and got the dirt out of the wound. He held up a bandage with a cartoon character on it and grinned at her. Nice kick, by the way. Thanks, she laughed. I guess it didn't do my team much good, since I don't think I'll be doing any more running tonight. Does it hurt much? Mostly my pride. He grinned up at her. How's the shoulder? She let him examine it. He gently patted another paper towel around the small scrapes there and picked off some grass that was caught at the edge of her tank top. He pushed the strap back a bit and laughed. What? She looked around, trying to see what was so funny. You are getting a tan. His finger followed the line where her shirt ended and the sun had actually touched. His hand on her skin sent shivers through her belly. She closed her eyes for a moment, savoring the experience. Did that hurt? He froze. Her eyes flew open to find his face close to hers. No. He helped her stand up again and didn't release her hands right away. She held her breath as he just looked at her, their bodies only inches apart. Finally, he took a step back and let go as they heard other voices outside the building. She released her breath. Had he been wanting to kiss her? Was she okay with that? At this moment, her heart and brain were in a strong argument, and she wasn't sure which one would win. All she knew was that tonight, for the first time since she had moved here, she wasn't a bit sad that she was single again. in Texas.
I like that scene.
I like that scene too.
Is that your favorite scene from the book?
No, that is not my favorite
No.
scene from the book, actually, but I do like it. It brings back some good memories of camp, because I did actually work at a summer camp, and I did or very closely actually base the experience that Hope has at camp with that summer camp, except I added the romance to hers. I was already married when I was working at the summer camp, so I couldn't do that.
So you say you very closely based it.
Yes.
So did you experience the same kind of like, did you play the counselor camp games and things like that?
I did go to counselor's night. My biggest memory from counselor's night was that I actually climbed the tower. I don't remember how tall it was, but it felt a lot taller when you got to the top, and ziplined down.
No,
And they
Not fun, not fun.
when I got almost to the top of the rock wall, I got stuck.
Oh no.
because I couldn't, like, I didn't have the arm strength to get the rest of the way up. So several of the other guys pulled me up to the top, and I was sitting on the edge ready to zip line, and I could not force myself to push myself off the edge. So I told him to push me, and he did. And it was really fun once I got going.
You're glad you did it.
I was very glad I did it, but I will probably never do it again.
I'm not good with heights. I don't.
Me neither.
No?
Don't think I could do it.
I tried to do an indoor
Adventure.
roast course
Oh,
kind
yeah.
of thing,
Ooh.
and I did really good until I got to like the last 3 things that you had to go. I froze. The guy had to come and like explain to me, because there were 2 different paths you could take,
Yes.
why this one would be the easier path over this one.
Right.
And I mean, I was like crying. I felt horrible because my kids were on the mission trip too, so I like see their mom bawling.
Aw. That's
So yeah,
not
heights
bad.
are not our friend. No. Mm-mm.
It wasn't so much the height, just as pushing myself off of it. That was the hard part. I don't know. Yeah.
You're braver than I am. I don't think I could do it.
Mm-mm.
I wish
So
I
are
would've.
you clumsy? Like,
Am I clumsy? Yes. Yes. I always say that it's a very good thing that my mom did not name me Grace, because I have none. I am not graceful. A lot of times I'll look down and I'll find a random bruise, and I'm like, wonder where I got that. Yeah.
You have grace. It's unrefined grace. That's what we decided in my house, is that it's unrefined
Okay.
grace.
I like that.
It's in its most raw form.
there you
Yes.
go.
Nice.
That's
And we
so
have a club.
Yay! I get to join a club.
Yeah. So not only are we an author tribe, we're a club of the unrefined grace.
Sounds
Yeah.
good.
I like that, yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
So you'll have to read the rest of the book to find out if Joe and Hope ever get any closer than that.
Very exciting.
Yeah, I like it. So I hope that gave you a really good taste of my writing style and what you might experience if you read one of my books. And we hope that you'll join us again, because Erin and Heather still have to have their turns to do a reading for you next time. So see you then.
Bye.